Mic check. 1, 2.
Tom, use your word.
Hey, you.
That's original freedom.
You guys talk a lot about, keeping, your business a passion. And like for you, Tom, you've been a part of a number of things that I'm sure were part of, a passion of yours in helping and giving back to people.
Right.
What have you learned along the way of setting up something like a nonprofit to feed into a passion of yours?
Yeah, out of all the different things, like doing pure nonprofit work, doing pure business, pure profit work, and then like hybrid in between. My biggest lessons learned with all that is being very clear on what it is that I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to do it. So if I'm doing a nonprofit, there's rules to that game. So really understanding those rules, really understanding what it's going to take to make that successful, and then deciding is like, hey, is that what I want to be a part of? Because just quickly on the nonprofit thing is you have to be very careful. Again, lessons learned, from me is that we created a nonprofit to do this amazing work that's helping human beings, and when I say nonprofit, my first lesson learned in that is like nonprofit is big profit for some people, which I didn't know. I was like, no, people make nonprofits to help people and do good stuff. Not true in all cases,
Right.
So that was a big lesson learned for me on that category is like, okay, no, hey, we want to stay at a 80% or 90% nonprofit, meaning 80 cents of every dollar goes to a human being. You know what I mean? Not an idea or a campaign, but a human being. It's like in order to do that, you have to raise money. So raising money on a nonprofit, is super hard. Well, raising money in any
Sure.
endeavor is super hard. For nonprofit, is really hard. But you figure it out, you nail it, you get it down, and then you do your processes and you do what you're trying to do for those human beings, and it's awesome. The thing you have to be careful of too is that you don't turn into, or that thing that I had to be careful of was that you end up getting this money, doing these wonderful things. And then those wonderful things now require more money to keep going on because it's a nonprofit. So one of the lessons learned for me is that you have to be very careful in managing your money and how you spend it, because otherwise I would turn into just a fundraising machine. It's like everything got kind of flipped where it's like, no, I was super passionate about helping, and that's where I got my satisfaction and my love and everything. But then, hey, we need to raise money. Well, I'm the guy that can get the money. So then I just run around trying to raise money, and I'm not doing my passion, which is helping the folks. So that was a big lesson learned in managing that piece. And there's a bunch of experts out there. But again, back to be careful who you take advice from. So on that piece of it, and then obviously Scott and I's bootstrap, which we have the most experience with, is to me is like the hardest, but also like really rewarding. And then I have experience with from the cheap seats. Well, not purely cheap seats, they cost those seats, to sit in, but of like, hey, getting investors, and being a part of that, where it's, hey, it's your own money involved in it, but also you're bringing in investor money too, and that being in a service-based business, at Warrior's Heart. So I've got some new experiences in that endeavor, but Josh and Lisa handle the actual what all that really means, because I'm back to good to great, I try to stay within my own lane of what I'm really good in, and all the while still learning, but really staying in my core competencies, and providing that to whatever team I'm involved in, of my core competencies.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about as it relates to an entrepreneurial venture is a lot of people start them after having had a career. We started ours after having had a career. There's people that are going to spend 8, 10, maybe 20 years somewhere, even 3. And my first business mentor, a guy by the name of Richard Casey, who took me under his wing. He had a bank and just really an amazing human. Unfortunately, he passed a few years ago. taught me and reminded me that I had a lot of people tell me, in my case specifically, like, hey, you're throwing away 17 years, because I had 3 years before I would have got a retirement and I was getting out. Like, you're throwing away. So there's no throwing away there. It's throwing away if I don't leverage it, but it's cumulative. So it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It doesn't matter how long you've been where you're at. None of that matters. All that matters is that you know that everything you've done in your life parlays somehow into what you can do as an entrepreneur. And really what you should do is leverage it, because from the outside, for example, Tom and I's entrepreneurial venture now we're in year 10. And someone will say, oh, it only took you 10 years to make X, or 10 years to do this. It's like, no, it took 30 years, or it took 27 years, right? The other stuff counts. The other stuff matters, because it's not just business experience. I have so much life experience and people experience and relationships and hiring, firing, and team building and inspiring, you name it, whatever it is, that all parlays into now. So for those naysayers out there in the world that tell people, oh, you're walking away from everything you've invested in, it's like, it's bullshit. That's the foundation to help springboard you to where you need to go, if you choose to look at it that way. And it was just an important thing for me. And also, here we are 10 years into this. We started out by, joining a startup, me getting fired, Tom walking away, us starting a tactical training company, doing that for 2 years, splitting off, diving into the entrepreneurial world, meeting a guy who worked for Steve Jobs, getting him walked into to Red Bull, Tom meeting Josh Lannon, starting Warrior's Heart because we did a veteran experience and touched his heart and made him cry, I'm sure, right? All this shit had to happen, right? And it's grinding, it's messy and hustling, and never losing sight of, and the bigger point here is, like, there was never any going back. Like, I'm not going back. That's what I know. I'm going forward. I'm going to help people. I'm going to speak. Tom's going to help people. He's going to build a rehab. How? It ended up being, millions of dollars got invested, and now Tom's helping run that, and his vision's coming to life. And now, we never planned on having a podcast. And here we are, right? It's and only because, why can we speak the way we do? It's because of the last 10 years out here grinding, making mistakes. I've lost friendships because business deals have gone bad. I've lost lots of money because business deals have gone bad. I've made lots of money because business deals have gone great. The key is, and it was said to me by a wise person years ago whenever I was way deep in debt and times were rough, and he asked me, he said, are you still in the game? I said, yeah. He said, good, keep going. Yeah. That's it. It's like, hey, fucking big deal. You're telling me the same thing I went through, dude. So it's like, why did I think it should be any different? Why does anyone think, if it took them 10 years to make VP at this company, well, fuck, it's probably going to take another 10 years to make yourself a president, in your own company. Stop thinking it's going to be easy. It was never easy. Entrepreneurial ventures are new. They're going to be difficult. The price tag of success is failure. It's the only way you're going to learn. You're not going to listen. A lot of what we're saying you're not even going to listen to, but at least it's going to make you think.
Yeah. That whole deal of, like, overnight success. Oh, that dude's or female, is an overnight success. Like, whoa,
bullshit.
overnight success. Like, 30 years and one night. You know what I mean? It made them an overnight success. And it was just funny. I just was thinking of, as you were talking of, because the guy is super popular now, Gary Vee. Gary Vaynerchuk. When we first started on this venture, he just had a book, and it was some wine guy.
Crush it.
You know what I mean? And he was talking. Is that what it was called? Crushing it. And, and we read it. And just, at that time it was how to work social media.
Oh, yeah.
How to do all that stuff, which was huge information for us, in 2011, and 12, whatever it was.
11, yeah.
But anyway, I was just kind of thinking about, like, just looking at his, like, if you sat down, it's like, oh, that guy, he's an overnight success kind of deal. It's like, ask him his story, you know what I mean? Just like, and I would imagine that's the case with at least 99% of the people out there. I mean, some people may have gotten lucky with IT or hit it on a product, but I don't think so.
The dot-com boom or
whatever
that meant.
Something, but it was like, but if you ask, that's what we love doing, is saying, like, man,
Well,
how did you get here?
Yeah.
Look at the story. You know what I mean? That's where all the richness is. That was because it's always the same story. Epic failures. You know what I mean? Epic wins. And everything along the way. I almost quit, or I did quit, and then. But it's just always these really, really amazing stories.
Yeah, because even if there was a .com person, so to speak, if you got their backstory, they had to put up with getting called a geek in high school and all the shit they were doing, or whatever it was, right? Mm-hmm. Now they're laughing, but yet they paid at some point. Mm-hmm. There is no free lunch. Is I think a really good takeaway for anybody that's going out there. And I would say that what appeared, this holds true even to date, what have appeared to be these massive introductions where doors are going to get swung open and oh my god, it's going to happen.
Kingmakers.
Fucking almost always never happen. And it's the door that somebody walks up and just either unlocks it or cracks it.
Yeah.
That's it. And you got to put your shoulder. We had to put our shoulder into it, put a fucking charge on it, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, be still willing to have the amateur mindset. Stay green, stay fresh, understand you don't know it all yet, and wait until you do. I mean, the 10 years, 10,000 hours thing, there's truth to it. Why the hell should anyone be able to walk into something 2 years later and spit on it? Be willing to pay the same price tag everyone else did. And the other thing I'd say is at some point, Tom already hit on it, we had to make decisions for ourselves. The only way you're going to maintain your power throughout a process that has so many highs and lows is to make your own decisions, especially your hard calls. Because if I would go back and say, well, we did this because my friend John told me to do it, well, that's a fucking victim, right? That's me passing. It's like, no, I have to get all the data, and just like any good leader, and own the final decision. Make sure you can live with it. I had to make sure I could live with the decisions I made that Tom has made. And that way, the other point of that is that way when the success comes, and it will, and it has, there's also fucking no one's going to say, oh, you're there because of me. Mm-hmm. No. I might be here because you gave me an opportunity. Now, if I wouldn't have used that opportunity and I would have failed, that same person wouldn't want to take credit for my failure. So I'll be damned if they're going to get credit for the success.
Yeah, and that just the mindset too, which is super helpful, is like, hey, no one owes you anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yep. You don't deserve anything. Oh, because I've done this in the past, like, hey, like that gives me a pass or something, or I'm kind of entitled or something like that.
Even past big wins.
Just the mindset, and for us, it was like no one cares about your last operation. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what are you doing now? Kind of deal. But just that mindset, because I found myself, in tough times, kind of getting a little self-pity, like, what the fuck, like, all I've done. Look at all I've done. Why, you know what I'm saying? That kind of crap. And it's like, man, nobody cares. I mean, it's just true. It's not being mean. It's like, hey, nobody cares about what I did in the past, like, as it pertains to me being an entrepreneur and trying to make money.
Yeah.
Like, they only cared about like what service I'm bringing or what product I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's been very helpful for me, and we just, that's our normal kind of mindset on most days. You know what I mean? It's just that mindset of like, hey man, nobody owes me nothing. I know what I'm worth. I know who I am. I know what products I'm bringing to the table. I know what I can deliver on, and there's a price for that. And that's very simply said. But I mean,
I thought it was damn well put, and it's taken them the last 30 plus years to get there.
And the rest of everything we talked about in the podcast just goes to those simple statements, but it's a lot of work.
And always be willing to look outside the purview of what you are comfortable with, because that's where the gold's going to lie. Almost always, it's me being forced to test my own belief systems around why any one thing has to be done this way or that. At the end of the day, it can be done any way you want. It's the age of technology. It's the consumer base and business strategy is changing every day. So there is no one way. And I would say as well, especially in the leadership development and personal development space, I've never looked at competition to figure out how to beat them.
Yeah.
I've never looked at competition, period. I'm not telling you it's what you should do, because that's a stupid piece of advice in some businesses. Yet for the most part, in the world that we're in now, in that development space, I know I don't want to be like anyone else in it.
No.
And so I don't even want to pollute my head with what they're doing or how they're doing it. In fact, I wish them well. If they're better than me, you should go see them. I know as long as I do it my way, if we do it our way, authentic to Tom's point, who we are, why we are, knowing where we're going, we'll attract the right people.
Yeah.
And we want to be around the right people. We know that that's a thing. Your product, your service, whatever the fuck it is not for everyone. So don't think it is. What we do is not for everyone. The way we consult, Tom's rehab facility, it's not for everyone. Get good, and in fact, get great at what it is you're doing. Make what it is you're doing great. Make it different. Do it different. Set yourself apart. I mean, no two thumbprints are alike. No two snowflakes are alike. Why the fuck should we emulate anyone then? It's impossible. At the end of the day, get the data and then make the hard calls yourself.
I think one of the coolest things for me to getting to know you guys and kind of your journey as entrepreneurs was the kind of effect that it had like on you guys as brothers. I mean, I think it was cool just to hear about some of the ways that you got to know each other even more, and like some of the situations that you were in when you were on the road, as far as like picking up business and that kind of thing, being forced really by means to be staying in the same room together, like learning each other on different levels as brothers. I think it's one of the coolest things. So what can you guys share on even that part of your guys' journey?
Oh, don't worry, Tom. I got this.
You got
one.
it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I got nothing.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I got some things, but I was like,
No, dude. Nate's been dying to ask this question. I know right where he wants me to go, so I won't disappoint. What Nate's getting at is, although Tom and I have been, super close since the day he was 5.
Right.
We won't say since the day we were born.
Right.
Through the years of military, starting families, getting married, we were in different units. Even when we were in the same unit, we never worked side by side. We'd never known each other in a professional capacity, aside from your reputation with guys I knew that worked with you, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So after the Magic You're Fired phone call came and you and I started business together, right? We were scrapping to make ends meet, and so we would always stay in the same hotel room.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the same bed.
Sometimes in the same bed. That's a true story. If they only had at least it was a queen, I think.
I think so.
And back then you twitched a lot. You still like fucking sleeping with this guy was like sleeping in a vibrating bed.
Yeah, like a Stephen King moment.
What's going on with Tom over there? But one of the coolest moments for me, getting to know you, right? This guy who I thought I knew inside and out. And I knew we were both big readers. Yeah, I always read nonfiction, spiritual, psychological, personal development, heavy, deep fucking philosophy, and I assumed that you did as well. Mm-hmm. But as I watched you go through your nightly ritual for the first time in my life, which included a shower, me rolling your neck and back out, right? You putting on your fuzzy socks, keep your feet warm, you taking your sleep meds, getting comfortable. I pulled my book out, and then you pulled your book out, and I looked over, and it had this like orb on the front of it, and maybe like this Viking princess goddess looking troll thing.
Dark elf, maybe. And I was like, dude, what are you reading? And you're like, oh, this is, book 5 in the 18-book series of the dark spells of angels of death. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, how long have you been reading this stuff? And you're like, oh, for a long time, like for a lot of years. So this is one of my favorite authors. And then you began to tell me about rock trolls and elven creatures and these horrific creatures, and then men of great strength and women of even more deviant strength and power. And I found out that my brother, the Delta Force sniper team leader, was really into crazy ass mysterious books of magic. Yes.
Yeah. So when did you pick up the magic?
I picked up the magic at about. I'll never forget whenever I picked it up.
one would never forget this.
Yeah, it was somehow. It was. I'll tell you exactly when. I don't remember what trip it was. It was probably might have been 04, 05 time frame. I were in Germany on the way, to Iraq, and it was like I was looking for some book to read, whatever. And I remember sometime when I'm past, I read this one author, like part of it, and it was kind of entertaining. And I was just looking for something to like that disconnected my mind. Like I said, we usually read meaningful, educational, learning stuff, and I was like, yeah, fuck all of that, man. Like, I just need some relief
Brother needs
here.
to check out.
Yeah, I just needed like whatever. So I went the sci-fi fantasy route because I liked Lord of the Rings and stuff, but I'd never tried reading a book kind of in that vein. So that's whenever I picked up my first one. Was probably.
Do you remember the title?
And 05, huh?
Do you remember the title of the book?
Yeah, Running with Demons.
It
It kind of matched up with the times.
Running
you know what
with
I mean?
Demons. That was appropriate.
And man, I can't remember the author's name, but that was just the beginning of like a whole. That was my intro into it. From that moment on, that's what I started. And again, it was a lot of times it was. Sometimes I would read it during the day, just as a read or something. But most of the time, it's just at night. You know what I mean? Because it has nothing to do with, with real life. But come to find out, it is real life.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And
Yeah.
if you
It
have
translates
if you
too.
end up having the pleasure of sitting down with Tom, I highly suggest that you ask him about these things, because fast forward to about 4 months ago up in DC, where circumstantially the three of us ended up in the same hotel room.
Yeah.
And
CD.
it was 70s decor. There was red crushed velvet and a lot of chrome and mirrors. It was an interesting room.
It was a nice room.
It was a nice
interesting.
room, in our nation's capital. And Nate and I were having a bit of conversation, but we thought we were all going to settle in and try to get to sleep for the night. And out of the blue, Tom's over reading this book with his fuzzy socks on, and he's like, "Hey, I want y'all to listen to this." And he reads like a 3-paragraph inspiring dissertation from one of his warlock creatures that he's reading about.
Yeah.
And then as he's done, he's like, "Brilliant, right?" And goes back to reading. Next page, like dropping dropping knowledge from the
Enlighten
words
us.
of
Wisdom.
wizards. Yeah,
Right.
wisdom from wizards, and that's what I. Maybe there's an episode at some point. There's wisdom, wizard wisdomdry.
Yeah.
Brought to you,
Just,
brought to you by Tom.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure at another time maybe you can share something you've learned about me, but I don't know that anything's going to trump the fact that I figured out that you lived in an alternate universe every evening.
Yeah. I don't know if anything will trump that other than I found out like you sleep naked.
Oh, even when I'm with you.
Yeah. I think when we were in the same bed though, you kept it clean.
There were
You know what I
boundaries.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kept them on for that. But if we're separate beds, like I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, you didn't know. Yeah,
didn't.
neither did your son until one night I decided to spend the night over here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he
found
learned
out
that as
quick.
well.
That's it.
Yeah, Uncle Scott.
Uncle Scott.
Uncle Scott.
All right.
Yeah.
Close us out, Uncle Scott.
Well, this is Uncle Scott coming to you. So, awesome episode today. It's good to be back in the North Carolina studio. We did a lot of filming out in California. And good to be home, good to get some time home, and good to recharge. I feel like we definitely have a lot more to share that we didn't in the way of success and failure,
Oh, yeah.
for sure. And I just definitely like to thank everybody for tuning in, continuing to tune in, continuing to share the message of positivity, of greater power, of choosing one's own path in life. Quit listening to the bullshit other people got planned for you. Go to your truth. Ask yourself the hard question. Don't be afraid of the answer. And once you get it, get to work. Have a great one.